Okay, welcome everyone. We're 1 minute past, so we'll kick off. For those of you just joined, just to flag, I've just pressed record. We're recording the session so we can share it with other colleagues. I'd be really grateful if you'd keep your mic on mute unless you're speaking. There are quite a lot of us in the room, but I think it's worth doing just a quick round robin intro before we kick off, and then Darren and I have got a presentation and opportunities for various discussions around key questions at this stage of development. So I'm Andrea Bircham, CEO of Bassetlaw and Bolsover CVS, so thank you for joining us today. Darren, over to you.
Afternoon, everyone. Yep, Darren Hewitt from BCVS, and I'm the Business Development Manager. And I will pass on to someone else, so Jess Hardwick.
Good afternoon, I'm Jess Hardwick. I'm Group Development Officer at Bassetlaw Community Volunteer Service. I'll pass on to Matthew, please.
Hello, I'm Matthew Marshall-Watson. I run the St Paul's Community Pantry.
Are you all right to nominate somebody else, Matthew?
Pass on to Laura. Yeah, pass on to Laura.
Hello, we are both from Bassetlaw Food Bank. I'm Laura Kennedy, the Support Engagement Manager.
I'm Ellen Ryan, the CEO.
And we'll pass on to Teresa.
Hi, Teresa Cullen, Transform Training. I'll pass it on to Daryl Plummer.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Daryl Plummer. I'm Programmes Director for Groundwork 5 Counties. I'll pass on to Vanessa Cookson.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Cookson. I'm the Strategy Engagement Officer for Bassetlaw District Council. And I'll pass on to Elaine Simmons.
Hi, I'm Elaine. I'm the Bid Development Officer at Citizens Advice Bureau. I'm going to pass on to Karen, who's next to me.
Hello, and apologies, I look like I've got back onto the body. I'm looking at this main TV screen. I'm CEO at Citizens Advice North Nottinghamshire, and I'll try and do it so that I can move my vision so that it doesn't look like I'm not looking at everybody. And I'm Sue. I'm just trying to see. Can't see everybody on the screen. So have we got anyone on the next? Sorry, Ellie. Is Ellie there?
Hi, I'm Ellie. I work from the Heart Charity and I'm the charity coordinator. And I will pass on to Paula.
Hi, I'm Paula. I'm Health and Wellbeing Manager at Bassetlaw Action Centre. I will pass on to Georgia.
Hi, I'm George Rosslin, CEO at the Centre Place. Sorry, I have just joined and there was a huge lag, so I'm not sure who's been.
So it's almost a game at the end where you're trying to work out who hasn't been. I think Sian.
Sian, I'll pass to Sian then, thank you.
Hello, I'm Sian from Now Church.
And Keely.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Keely Azashi here, and I'm one of the transformation officers for Bassetlaw Place-Based Partnership.
And I think if my game of guessing was any good, I think that's everyone. Apologies. Job done. Thank you, everyone.
Melvin's on mute. Has Melvin introduced himself?
That's a point. Yeah, I'm Melvin Middleton. I'm a member of the Langley Parish Council.
Fab, thank you, Melvin. A good spot.
Thank you. Have we missed anybody else? We've got quite a lot of people with this, which is great. Emma. Apologies.
Yeah, hi, sorry, I joined late. I'm Emma Trowbridge. I'm a volunteer coordinator for literacy volunteers.
Thank you. Any more? Apologies. We'll be tag teaming, Darren and I, so between us, we'll keep an eye on the chat and do shout up if we miss anybody putting their hands up or dropping any comments in the chat. Darren, are you okay to share the presentation? Darren's prepared a short presentation and mostly with the headlines of what we know so far. Mostly this is an opportunity to come together and start to discuss this opportunity. So this session today, just to make sure you're in the right one, is to discuss the EMCCA Community Development Fund and the partnership approach to applying for Worksop South East. If you go on a page, Darren, brilliant. Thank you. So that's a little map of Worksop South East, which hopefully you're all familiar with. And the aim today is to bring partners together to co-design or co-develop a successful CDF bid that drives lasting change in Worksop South East. As you'll all know, it's one of the most disadvantaged, most deprived areas in Bassetlaw, unfortunately, but that does mean it was successful and is one of the 3 county areas for knots that have been selected for inclusion in the community development pilot. Myself and Darren have been involved in lots of meetings with EMCCA colleagues over the last year to prepare the outline business case and co-design that proposal. So we're really pleased that Bassetlaw is going to benefit from this programme. And as we know, the Mayor is looking for organisations to come together, submit one joint application within each area, and they have already said that it's unlikely that more than one application will be funded. Over to you, Darren.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, there's a lot of context over the next 2 or 3 slides about the fund. So at any point, please do just kind of come off mute and give me a shout to pause, or if there's any open discussion points and questions, we can just open the floor at any point, really. But it's branded as a 3-year fund. As we know, once we go into the timelines, this is currently year 1. So by the time that the funding and the decisions are made, we are into early 26. So year 1 delivery will probably consist of kind of February and March, and then we have 2 years of delivery after that. The priorities of the fund: boosting community resilience, improving local skills, helping people shape their own neighbourhoods, and we'll come on to community voice and how that needs to play a large part in this. The funding available in Worksop South East is just over £220,000, with an extra £8,000 for the development of emerging and new community groups. So that's the pot that will be shared between this one partnership and the successful application. In terms of eligibility, it is voluntary and community organisations, charities. I won't go into that full list, but what they are looking for is projects that are delivered in the specific priority area within the boundary lines, and local providers are prioritised. They have said that regional, national organisations are welcome to apply if they are involved in strong local partnerships and have a clear plan for local delivery. So it is place-based work, and it's what we all know, it's what we all do, and it's prioritising those local organisations that are well embedded and community-led. The timeline is just there on the right-hand side. So the expressions of interest have opened, and I don't know if anyone else has done those, but we have expressed an expression of interest to EMCCA to say that we will be looking to develop and deliver a partnership bid. The actual application period opens from 13th of October through till 24th of November. So after this call, and once some more information comes out from EMCCA themselves, we will then shape that partnership bid with those that want to be involved and align, etc., etc. The decisions and the timelines are there. So through December into January, announcements early February, and then delivery will take place Feb 26 through to March 28. That's the 3-year period for this. But what types of projects that can be funded are broad, varied, exciting, and a lot that people on this call will already be doing, which is great. So community hubs and facilities, refurbishing, expanding local spaces, thinking about accessibility of your spaces if you have a hub or a space, warm spaces, digital access points, and tackling all those inequalities that are related to those. Volunteering and social action, we know from experience, and all, so many of the groups in this area are already really involved with good volunteering and social action. So recruiting, training local volunteers. Youth and family activities for children, young people, that might look like school holiday provision. It might be family learning or more targeted support. Skills and employability, involved in an awful lot of things at the minute. So community-based training, how we upskill those people in these communities that we want to work with. Health and well-being, loneliness, again, and community cohesion, tackling ASB. So very broad, very apt and appropriate for an awful lot of the people on the call and the groups that we know are engaging here. I'll pass back to, well, I'll pause there. If I can stop sharing and come straight back onto there. But appreciate that's a whistle stop tour of all of the content and the information. Is there any questions on that or any clarification points? Anything that raises? No? It's good. Hopefully that was quite clear then, and people but maybe had a chance to look at that. So if I share again and pass back to Andrea so we can keep rotating our voices.
Thanks, Darren. As Darren said, we take this very strong partnership, place-based approach anyway to everything we do as a partnership in Bassetlaw. So we're going to be building on some of the great work that's already happened over the last 12 months, and we've listed some of it here and plotted some of the key organisations operating across Worksop South East. There will be more, but these are the ones that are actually based in Worksop South East on the map there. So some of the things that have happened over the last 12 months are the UK SPF community grants, Worksop Together, which is the name of what is now the Plan for Neighbourhoods board and was the town's board previously. And there's a live consultation going on at the moment, which does cover Worksop South East, the whole of the Worksop footprint, to inform the investment plan for use of the £20 million investment. So in addition to that one step at a time work that's been going on, the Fresh Street work around healthy eating in Manton, investing in communities work, which is public health investment, and the Thriving Communities work, which has been led by BDC as a partnership approach over recent years. So the question to you at this stage is, what more has been going on recently, so we can identify what's already working, what the gaps are. And I know there's a lot more going on, and particularly all the different projects under community grants, and these are programme areas, and there's lots of little projects sitting underneath here. But at this point, if we just take the slide off the screen, Darren, we'll open it up to the floor and for you to share what you're doing already in Worksop South East, and then we'll start to look at the gaps. Georgia.
Thanks, Andrea. I think most of you kind of know Centre Place and what we do, but I'll just briefly share our services. So our current services, we've got Talkzone Mental Health Service. So we support children and young people aged 11 to 25 and their families with counselling, mental health support and mentoring. That's where I was going with that. And we have LGBT plus service Nottinghamshire as well, which provides support for LGBT children and young people and their families. Historically, Centre Place has provided lots of different services and projects. So we provided young parent support, drop-in support, and that is something that we've kind of identified for our services. We do want to go back to providing that drop-in for 16 to 25-year-olds around employment, around housing or any issues for young people. That's something that's kind of on my map for the next few years, in the direction that we want to go back in, because we've noticed that through some of the counselling and mental health appointments, it is more that practical support alongside that, and some of those children and people haven't got anywhere to turn with that. Apologies, I am in the office today. Sorry, that's number 2 distraction. I'll just mute for a second.
Thank you, Georgia. And there is some amazing work going on, we know that, but we also know that Worksop South East is less well served than per average head of population in terms of the number of groups, the number of services, than the rest of Bassetlaw and certainly the rest of Nottinghamshire, and that's why it was included on the shortlist of areas to be supported. So brilliant that Centre Place has got stuff happening and the rest of your organisations, but much more need than service support available at the moment. So does anybody else like to share any headlines around what they've been doing over the last 12 months? Either in or with Worksop South East Teresa, thank you. Nice to meet you. Hello.
Yeah, nice to see you as well. Hello, we just kind of do things under the radar all the time. I'm sorry about that. It's just well, we're based, our Worksop base is at the Dukeries Business Centre. And the stuff we've been doing with young people, we've had a contract with Million Hours with the lottery. We've been doing youth activities around the area. We tend to work with young people who are referred to us by the police because they're particularly difficult in the community. And we've also been doing employability training with the new community from Hong Kong. And we've been doing that for a while now. And we're running a course called How to Find a Job in the UK, which actually outlines the specific skills you need to be able to find a job in the UK, which is quite different to in Hong Kong, for example, where if you've got the best qualifications, you get the job. In England, we only employ people we like, bizarrely. So it doesn't matter if you're well qualified or just qualified, you have to be able to sell yourself to get a job. In Nottingham City, we do that same course with really, really disadvantaged people in the community, people that have been unemployed for a very long time, and we could just as easily do that. The Hong Kong course is funded by East Midlands councils. So that's what we've been mostly doing. We do bits and bobs of other stuff whenever. What we mostly do is wellbeing courses. And, you know, Andrea, we did one with you, didn't we, a while ago?
Yeah.
And I was thinking when I came onto this course, that's what I'd probably want to put into the bid, wellbeing courses, because that really has a really useful effect on helping people to see life differently and get on to doing different things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Teresa. Keely. Can't hear you, Keely. Can anybody else? No. Can't hear you. We'll just come back to you in a minute, Keely, because we can't hear you. I'm not sure why, but let me go over to Matthew. And then we'll come back to you.
Hi, hello there. Yeah, at St Paul's, we run a community pantry on a Tuesday and a Wednesday evening, which is, you know, it's not directly for the people at Manton, but, you know, we have a lot of, you know, local support there. And starting a fortnight ago, we've just started on a Thursday a local social group for the socially inactive, people with dementia. It's called the Manton Pit Stop. We're putting that on in conjunction with Sonia at BCVS. And we would like to expand both of these in the months ahead if we possibly can, especially in the winter, to provide a warm space, some way for people to come. St Paul's is right in the centre of the things in Manton, so I think we're actually well placed to, you know, get, you know, more involved in the area and the people if we can. So yeah, that's it.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Matthew. Brilliant. Keely, is your sound working yet, do you think? No, still can't hear. Sorry. Do you want to put a few comments in the chat and we'll come back to you as soon as we can? Thank you. And we'll go over to you, Elaine. Thanks. Oh, Karen.
Is that right? Double act. Double act today. So yeah, we focused around volunteering and skills development for people, and it also gave us the opportunity to look at some of the training that we did, because we have a lot of volunteers that join us as advisors, and the training for that can take around 3 months. So there was the opportunity to increase the people that are volunteers and do the advisor training, which then supports more people because that increases our resources to support more people in communities. The other thing that we found is that there's lots of different events going off and trying to reach people in hard to reach areas. So that was one of the areas that was focused on, and it enabled us to kind of piggyback on the back of some of the events that were happening to give the opportunity to raise awareness of the services that we do. So people could approach us so that we could help them with their debts, their finances, their welfare benefits, their housing, all the services that we're able to provide. But also we re-looked at some of the volunteering training that we do and recruiting more people to do volunteer event support. So it's a lesser time period of training, and for those people that don't want to be an advisor and do that full intense training, there would be a way of supporting the events that we do. So that's kind of developed as we've gone on. So I just wanted to share that with you all. Thank you.
Oops, sorry, I was on mute myself there. Thank you, Karen. Brilliant. Paula, over to you.
So all of our services, because we cover all of Bassetlaw, like many of you, cover this area, but particularly our Staying Well programmes, wellbeing courses, and the community car scheme, and also supported independent living service, probably the most. They do a lot of benefit checks and help people with housing and things like that. But we wouldn't say no to any of our services from anyone that lived in that area.
Thanks, Paula. Laura and Ellen.
Hiya. So obviously at the food bank we run a number of different projects. So we've got our crisis response, the emergency food parcels, and then our subsidised fruit and veg box scheme, which is a kind of step beyond that, or step up the food ladder, as we'd say. So I have been looking at our data in terms of relating to Worksop South East particular, and no surprise that it is overrepresented in the amount of emergency food parcels, and also households on the fruit and veg box scheme that subscribe to that. So if food parcels were split evenly between 25 wards, for us Worksop South East is seeing about 4 times what would be the average in terms of support with those emergency food parcels, that crisis support, and similar on the fruit and veg box scheme as well. So I think that's where we'd be looking for some supports and funding around those areas.
Thanks, Ellen. I think we've got a couple of comments in chat. Would anybody else like to share what they've been doing in Worksop South East? We've got a comment from Jess around from the Heart Work that's been running holiday hunger campaigns. I don't know whether
Yeah, sorry, Andrea.
Ellie wants to chip in. Sorry, I was just looking for you, Ellie. Thank you.
It's all right. Yeah, so obviously we've just finally been able to get back to normality. What is normality in this line of work? But obviously for the summer holidays we did the summer camps and food provision across of like Bassetlaw, mainly focusing in Manton when we ran the summer camps. We had 737 children attend those, and we delivered 6,799 meals. So that's food provision meals, breakfast and lunch. So we obviously want to keep continuing to do that. We've got October again, we'll be doing that throughout October. We run our coffee sessions and our Fun Fridays, which that's open to a vast people, obviously in the Worksop and further areas. So yeah, obviously we just want to keep continuing to support obviously food provision, holiday hunger, all those, and then obviously coming up we've got the Christmas toy appeal, which I don't know, I can't remember the stats off the top of my head, but last year was my first year and it was just continues to get bigger and bigger each year.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vanessa.
Thank you. So I'm stepping in the shoes of somebody that's no longer works for us. Terry Rowe was like lead officer on the Thriving Communities, and there was a number of joint actions in the action plan. One of which I do know was working on the allotment, which I think Daryl was involved in. So I don't know where we are with that, but there was definitely some work around developing the allotment for community access. There was a number of other key pieces of work around private rent and enabling people to access energy efficiencies and fuel poverty funding. There was also some stuff around supporting the centre place work. So that plan is still ongoing. There are some bits of it that have been completed, but there's quite a lot of that still ongoing, and we will be doing an update on that quite shortly. So hopefully we'll be able to feed that back into you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Vanessa. Any other comments from any other colleagues on the call before we move on to the next slide? Daryl.
Hi. Yeah, there's a few bits. Groundwork 5 counties have been really busy in the area. We do have the allotment space that Vanessa was talking around. We are busy putting it together. We will be delivering some more events through October and November. A lot of it last year was really busy and oversubscribed. We do Wellies in the Woods, which is under fives with a parent, where the children kind of come down. We hope they get really dirty. We hope that the parents kind of engage and start to create friend networks. We're looking at forest schools for slightly older children. We are very active in the area for fuel poverty and energy efficiency, so we can offer any home a free service, depending on which funding stream we're using at the time. There are sometimes some freebies to hand out, which is great. So, you know, we can access different hardship funds from central monies. So we can get things like air fryers, heated blankets. We can get certain works completed. If it's local authority housing, then they're really keen to understand what it is we can do to support the house to be more efficient or repaired. There's a huge amount of work happening with Awab's law around damp and mould. We've got projects running with air sensors to try and help people understand what's going wrong with their property, so that we can advise landlords what it is they potentially need to do to keep people as warm as they can be and as fit and healthy as possible in homes that might need some level of upgrade.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. There's a few comments in chat as well, and then we'll move on. This isn't the only opportunity to note what's already working well. Obviously, there'll be a robust process as we go through the timeline. But the comments in the chat, Jess has noted the new LGBTQIA plus group for over 25s that's been established. The Bassetlaw Multicultural Association, Sanctuary at St John's sessions that run Men in Sheds, running Tackling Loneliness and Social Isolatedness for over 55s, and Keely's flagged the work that's been going on with ABL, with Marjana around and the Investing in Communities work around setting up new groups. So lots of new groups set up, including the boxing club, and making the point that around connections into the INT referral pathways as they develop. So the integrated neighbourhood team approach, as that's developing both from local programmes, but also the national NHS objective around integrated neighbourhood teams. So, and Sean's just adding a comment from Now Church, so we'll come back to that. But it's very clear within the information published to date by EMCCA that they want to see proposals that are community-led, that involve community members in shaping and designing and delivering the work that is funded. And many of those pieces of work that we just talked about are very much informed by community members and involve community members in design and delivery. But we will collectively need to summarise that and how we will seek to ensure local community members are front and centre of the work happening. So, you're welcome, Keely. So the question for you at this point is, where and how is community voice currently shaping developments in Worksop South East, and whose voices are missing? And from a BCVS perspective, because we're involved in lots of the programmes that have just been summarised, one of the most significant programmes where we have documented community voice and involved community voice has been around investing in communities in Fresh Street over the last 12 months, where there's been a whole series of engagement events happening weekly. For one point, where questions have been asked of those participants around what we call pants and tops, what's best and what's worst about whatever the subject being discussed that week. So we've got all of those voices and data recorded, and there's lots more in lots of the programmes we've just talked about. But can you share some of the examples around how community voice is shaping that work that you're doing in Worksop South East now, and start to have that conversation about whose voices are missing and what do we need to do about it? So again, if we come off the screen. How are community members and community voice shaping your services for Worksop South East is a question. Vanessa.
Hi. So one of the things that we've done about the Thriving was create a Worksop South East or West or whatever it is group of made up of tenants and residents in that area. It was put together probably middle of last year, and those were the people that we were speaking to and providing with and they helped sort of like we also did a bit of a survey regarding all of the murals that we did in connection with another partner. I think there's been quite a bit of engagement in terms of survey work. Because we have quite a lot of social housing in that area, the tenant engagement team are very, very involved in that area. So they tend to do a lot of gathering of information. They have regular meetings down there to be able to gather views. So that's how we've been doing it.
Brilliant. And where is that summarised, or how is it recorded, and can we access it, Vanessa?
We'll be able to. Well, I can summarise. I'll be summarising it in the Thriving update, obviously, but I can provide you with a report on if that helps.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
lovely.
certainly.
Thank you. Just to input while you gather your thoughts, from a Worksop Together perspective, several organisations on the call are involved in the current community engagement and consultation activities taking place, which includes a survey and running lots of focus groups. And as I said earlier, that insight will shape and inform the investment and regeneration plan, the use of that 20 million. But because there's an overlap in the geography here, we will certainly share that insight in both directions, into Worksop Together and into this as it's gathered. We've already got, is it 260 responses, Darren, to that survey that's live at the moment?
Yeah, I've not checked in the last 24 hours, but I'd imagine close to 300 now.
Okay, brilliant. And that's in partnership with Citizens Advice, Northern Arts, with Centre Place, with Oasis, who I don't think is on the call, and several other community organisations running that, Multicultural Association, Willow Garden, which is also in Worksop South East. Any other examples of how you listen to community voice and how that shapes the services you've been describing?
Or indeed the second question, really, around, I know Jess has just popped in there, feels young people are quite difficult to engage in terms of voice barriers, including EAL, ASB, difficulty in linking with education providers. Definitely hear that one. So yeah, I mean, in terms of barriers, thank you, Teresa, saying no surveys in the last couple of years, but something that they would do as standard practice. But yeah, barriers or whose voices are missing in the data that we probably hold collectively.
Yeah, from a Worksop Together perspective, the reason the Bassetlaw District Council and the Worksop Together Board commissioned the new rounds of community engagement and consultation was there were 4 groups that were underrepresented in previous consultation work, and they were young people, older people, disabled people, and minority ethnic people from local minority ethnic communities. So that is the work that is the focus of the current engagement around that. And you usually find the same underrepresentation in those more marginalised communities in generic community engagement work. Yeah, and Teresa's flag, maybe young people with learning disabilities and their families don't get heard. Yeah, absolutely. Darryl.
We have quite strong relations with the college, so we currently have 18 students on a rotated basis working on work placements where they've not been successful in getting work placements with other businesses. They're working with us on the Muse, which is council properties, which they're doing woodwork skills, bricklaying. There's going to be some landscaping. There's groundwork, as in not the charity, as in groundwork, as in bricks on the floor kind of thing. So we're engaging with quite a lot of students at the moment on a regular basis. They're coming down to make sure that their qualifications can be gained because they've had the experience and work that they're doing, and that's allowing us to connect with the people and the residents in the area, which is proving to break down and support some of the antisocial behaviour that the area's had, because they're starting to recognise that not all young people are there to be antisocial, and the young people are starting to recognise that actually the older generation are great, and the cross is starting to have some really positive effects. So there's some really nice findings there. So we have quite strong connections to the college if we can help with anything there for young people.
Great, thank you. There's a lot more current live voice work going on than I realised. So that's brilliant news, and we need to build on that and embed that in this programme as we go forward. So Karen or Elaine.
Karen again. So we do, we've got a steering group which we refer to as Citizens Panel. So it's a mixture of some staff but also members of the public. So they meet roughly every 6 weeks, and we look at evidence from the clients that come through the doors and any trending issues that we see, to try and look at where there's issues that are affecting people, and then we agree what we're going to look at and what we're going to prioritise. So we haven't done it specifically for the South East area. We do it as a generic one, but that could be something that we could have a look at, because there will be some people from the South East area that would be affected. To give you an example of a recent thing that we worked on, it was council tax reduction. So where people are in a negative budget, which means that they can't afford their priority expenses with the income that they're coming in, so it doesn't meet that. We were trying to look at ways that we could reduce their expenditure, which we do as an overall thing. So council tax reduction was something that a lot of people weren't aware of. We did some research, we worked with BDC colleagues, and then we did a raising awareness campaign, which we promoted locally, also went into Worksop Life, and then we had to look at what response that we'd had, and then what the take-up of that was. And we checked obviously beforehand that the council had got the resources to deal with anything that might come through additionally. So that's an example of what we do, and we've done other things such as with personal independence payment, and we're currently working on digital inclusion for people, or digital exclusion, should I say. So that's an example of what we've done, and we can feed into the group as well.
Fantastic, thank you. It's already shaping up to be a potentially really strong partnership, isn't it? Building on some of what's worked well historically and the gaps and needs we've identified. We do know when we start to dig into some of that wider voice data, residents from Worksop South East are usually underrepresented or not at all on more generic, wider pieces of work that cover the whole of the county or the district even. So this is an opportunity for some really good, strong, positive action to make sure that local residents are firmly front and centre of the programme as it develops. Would anybody else like to share anything before we go on to another slide? Okay, brilliant. Can you bring their presentation back up, Darren, please? Okay, so we've started to consider some of these questions already in the discussion, but just to flag that today's gathering online meeting is just the first step in pulling together the partnership and a proposal to go in. It's fantastic news that EMCCA has selected Worksop South East, and 220 odd K is not a small change, but it's also not a huge amount of money over 2 years for the scale of need there is. So it's really important that we feed in the needs that were identified and the gaps into the other investment taking place across the area too, and join it all up. So Darren, I think I was meant to be handing over to you for this one. Back to you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm mindful of time. I'm mindful that we have started to unpick quite a bit of this. So I think if we work our way through those 3 questions, putting a bit of a 5-minute time limit, that will take us to the 4 p.m. finish time. So I guess the first question really is a bit of an open floor on what are the biggest needs, and that probably needs to take into account a lot of what we've started to unpick with what do your community tell you are your biggest needs, what might be your organisation's priorities. If there was a golden pot, what would that first number 1 priority be for you in Worksop South East? So again, please use the chat because I'm scribbling, I'm making all notes. Yes, Andrea?
Yeah, please do. And we're recording, so we will capture all of this and there'll be additional opportunities to feed in. I just wanted to make 2 points in terms of the context. One is you described quite a lot of activity already, which is fantastic, but we know it isn't enough for the scale of need and the numbers and size of population in Worksop South East. We also know a lot of those programmes and the funding for those programmes is ending in March 26. So even if those activities are running now, they may not be running after March 26 when that funding runs out. So there's 2 layers of consideration there, in addition to the really big question, what needs there are that have not been met and aren't being met now, which, as we know in Worksop South East, is substantial, and there are a very small number of groups per population head compared to the rest of the county, as we said at the beginning. So over to you. What are those gaps and needs? Vanessa?
I would say, well, from our point of view, I would say probably something around mental health and the social isolation, especially because we have a lot of older people that are very isolated, but then we also have lots of younger people that are isolated, and then we have lots of minority groups, pockets of minority groups again that really are isolated, and mental health is definitely one of those things that's definitely on the rise in our work and in that area. So that's what I would say.
Thank you, Vanessa. Sorry, Darren, I've taken over your slide. You go.
No, that's all good. I'll just pop that in the chat. So what are the biggest needs right now for your community, your participants, your organisation? Elaine?
Yeah, I don't know whether the need is actually in that area, but we've seen an increase compared to last year to this year on advice for immigration advice, and we did run some sessions. One of the team leaders ran some sessions for awareness on that. And it's provoked some interest and additional sort of clients. We could probably drill down and find out what areas those clients were from, but it seems to be a rising need in the area.
And we know that Worksop South East is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in terms of diverse populations and the largest number of minority ethnic residents. So I would expect there would be a high correlation there. Thanks.
Carol.
I think it's got to be something around the cost of living. I think it's about people being able to be warm, watered, and happy, as in, have people have food, is everybody eating something? Do they have access to what it is they need to be happy and healthy? And that affects everybody, but it's certainly going to affect areas of deprivation around sort of southeast Worksop area. So for me, it's about actually integrating with families and individual people to understand what it is their needs are. And it's not always just fuel or food. It could be social isolations. It could be anything that anyone else has mentioned. It's about interacting with people and understanding from them what they need help and support with to be the best that they can be.
Yep, spot on. And I think that's why that community voice and that piece of work and all the various bits that we've just spoken about in terms of voice have to shape this, because it has to be the residents and the community of Worksop South East that decide and choose and dictate ultimately what this investment moves towards. Sian, thank you. Playground, safe indoor spaces for children, young people. I think all the time we speak about facilities in Manton, in Worksop South East, and the lack thereof. So definitely important. Pride in place being a big issue, and being proud of where we are, etc. Georgia, coming to you.
Thank you. Just echo what everyone else is saying, really. I think the community, like spaces, being one of the main focuses. Like when I started this place, we used to get the surplus food, so we'd get families, not just our service users, but we'd get all families in the local area coming in. We used to do hot foods projects where we had some of the older residents coming and buying a hot meal for £1, and some of our younger people would make it. So that real community feel and that community spirit, I think, is missing. And in terms of mental health, obviously it talks zones with children and young people, so we are early intervention service, but even earlier than that, because we are an early intervention service, but actually they are coming to us because they're having those low level anxiety, and we are seeing those escalating needs. So even before that, some more of the preventative stuff, which obviously we've tried to do, but funding and time and services capacity, etc. I think there's always more that can be done around prevention.
For sure, yeah. Nature of our beast and where we all work, we'd always love to engage earlier rather than firefighting and reacting. Teresa.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and I don't think this is just in Worksop South East, but I think it's definitely a feature there. Many years ago in Manton, we used to have really quite good youth facilities. But I mean, that was years ago, and there's been years and years of austerity since, and that's not the case anymore. But the thing that we are noticing a lot is that the young this community cohesion and fractured community in an area that used to be a very closely knit, tight community is quite an issue. Young people are really disengaged and quite, I don't want to say angry really, because it's not really angry, but they're just really disengaged, and they're very vulnerable to social media and different influences. And there's definitely a shift in the way young people are perceiving life and life in Worksop right now, and they kind of just don't care. And including young people, I think it's not about having safe spaces for young people, because frankly, a lot of the young people can't go to the safe spaces anyway, because their behaviour is such that they're not welcome in the safe spaces. And so they congregate together, and quite often in each other's houses that are not safe spaces for anybody, let alone the young people that live there. But having the young people feel part of something and a sense that they belong there and everybody else isn't getting something and they're getting nothing is something that I think we've really got to address. It's really like an elephant in the room at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. And actually I was going to come back to the point that in the guidance that's been issued so far, it's quite brief and high level guidance that's come out from EMCCA, but in the early discussions and the pre-business case papers, the focus was very much around inclusive growth and social capital, and around exactly as you say, Teresa, that fostering that sense of involvement and belonging. This isn't just to fund services to do to people, it is with and for people at the centre of it. So there's that sustainability and legacy and building that sense of belonging and tackling loneliness and community involvement. So the how we do this is as important as what we end up doing. That we've got to involve people more to address that fracturing and the cohesion issues that you've talked about, Teresa. And it's a bit of a vicious cycle when you're working with the most marginalised people, but that's what this fund is for.
Okay, I will move us on to the kind of final open discussion question on there. There'll be time for anything before we jump off, but the question really then, and perfect segue from a couple of you in the comments about sustaining, maintaining, again, our natural life cycle of delivering something and then funding ends and then we have to pick it up again down the line and things like that. So the question being, where are our strengths? What are we possibly currently doing that aligns with the fund? That again, if there was a magic pot, would be number one priority to sustain, to build, to grow stronger. So if I'm just going to pop in the chat the priorities from the guidance, and the question really is, where are our strengths aligned with those fund priorities that we would want to build on, develop, or even just maintain and sustain?
From a BCVS perspective, just to chip in, obviously they're all really important and they all contribute in different ways. But one of the key issues in areas like Manton is those bottom two bullet points, building community resilience and helping new groups to get started. They're two really important things in terms of addressing all the issues that we've talked about. So there aren't enough people involved in volunteering, involved in running those groups. Matthew and the work that he does and that many of you do are kind of exceptions, but generally there's not that many local people from Worksop South East involved in design and delivery of those projects.
Teresa.
Try not to have too much to say because I have a lot to say always. But I think, you know, just listen to what Andrew was saying. A community resilience project that was a joint project between us all, that was all around building community resilience, would actually, I think, make a very, very big difference to the area and give an opportunity for people to really work together.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't and can't call it that resilience. It's a bit negative, isn't it? But
you know what I mean by community resilience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if
like a whole community project.
Yeah, I think coming together as one programme with different components, but under an umbrella that is aiming to address those issues, would be really powerful. I agree with you, Teresa.
Really would.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, just echoing the same point. I think we've got so many fantastic projects that are going on, but if we could use this opportunity to strengthen those partnerships and you know, I've seen a lot of people here about saying spaces in Manton. We've just opened our brand new community cafe with community spaces, and at the moment we're finding those spaces are being underutilized. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people in here asking for those spaces. You know, there's pieces and puzzles that need to be slotted together here, and this should be a really good platform and opportunity for us to be able to do that. And then really echoing on sort of Daryl and George's points from earlier is that you know, what we've seen over the last few months is actually these have been our busiest few months. Numbers have gone up in terms of requests for crisis support, whereas on previous years numbers have been going down. So this trend is now turning around. People are struggling more and more, and it is with those basics, that cost of living, that basic support that's needed. Echoing what Citizens Advice said about the negative budgets, there's a real issue and a real concern there, and I think it's only growing. And this could be a really good opportunity for us to put something in place that builds that. Yes, if resilience is not the term that we want to use, but it's a real concern about us, and this could be a really good opportunity for us to step in and try and turn that tide back again.
Yeah, brilliant. And if we get that concept or the model right, this pot of money, as I said, it's not a lot, it's not going to be able to fund all of that, but there's other investment coming to Worksop where we could feed in those needs and share what's developed here and hopefully unlock some of that resource too. So brilliant. Well,
Yeah,
that went incredibly quickly, didn't it? And we've only just started to scratch the surface, but it feels like a really positive energy. There's a lot of, you know, you're all up for doing something together, which is great. We need to wait for EMCCA, further EMCCA guidance. They're going to be running webinars and releasing the application form. And we'll need to have a couple more meetings with partners and go through a process to agree what exactly will be included in the proposal. But this feels like a really positive start to the conversation. So thank you very much to all of you for your time. Darren, I'll hand back to you for any final words.
yeah, fab, thank you. I think just reiterating those next steps really in that timeline. So there is an open expression of interest at the minute to EMCCA. As I say, we have submitted one from BCVS to say that we would like to lead a partnership. EMCCA have said that they're hosting webinars, but that information is not out yet. So as soon as that is, we will pass that on. And we would then expect, once we have that next information, that we'd start to pull together a partner proposal form where we look at taking all of this information that we're speaking about and saying who wants to be involved and in what capacity and what does that look like. And then we shape that during the application period or before, ideally, so that that is opening 13th October. It is open for a good chunk of time. So a lot of those conversations and back and forth will take place to really iron out the application. Ready to submit by November, decisions in January, project delivery starting from February, if that all goes through okay. And just a big thank you. I think, yeah, the chat is flying with back and forth, and the word partnership, working together, etc., is coming through loud and clear, which is great. Really, really positive. I think myself and Andrea will stay on for a few minutes if anyone has anything extra. But if not, thank you ever so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
We will be in touch with you all soon. So thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just stopping.